Washington, D.C. celebrated the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army right in the heart of downtown this evening.
Boy, what a night, right? The rain couldn't stop the showcasing of our nation's military, which marked the largest military parade D.C. has seen in decades. Folks traveled from all over the country to get a chance to check out heavy military weaponry, including sniper rifles, light machine guns, carbines, and grenade and rocket launchers.
We do support the troops, and I think it's important for the American people to stand behind the troops.
President Trump attending a military parade in Washington, D.C. on Saturday to celebrate the Army's 250th anniversary, as he also celebrates his 79th birthday. The 250th birthday of the U.S. Army Grand Military Parade and Celebration, as it's officially called, featured thousands of soldiers, an array of tanks and other military vehicles, and dozens of aircraft. A large crowd of spectators lined the parade route along the National Mall.
I was just really excited about the opportunity to celebrate, just to see the military power that's out here, because that's so cool. We have family veterans in our family. I have a son about to go in the Air Force.
The parade got an early start because of weather concerns, as storms were expected. Things kicking off in the sky with the Golden Knights parachuting onto the mall, one with the Maryland flag flying proud.
You know, it's great for me to see the new equipment and some of the old stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing the older uniforms in the parade today, and hopefully I see some people wearing the patches I wore from the war.
The parade took fans through the eras, starting with the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World Wars I and II, the Korean War and Vietnam War, and all the way to current fighting standards, and to look ahead to the future.
Having them show it off makes me feel safe.
President Donald Trump presiding over an enlistment and re-enlistment ceremony, calling on soldiers to support and defend the Constitution.
So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations, congratulations. Welcome to the United States Army, and have a great life. Thank you very much. Have a great life.
The grand finale, fireworks over the tidal basin. Meanwhile, hundreds took to the streets to voice their opposition to the military parade on the president's birthday, along with the Trump administration's actions since he took office.
Our Lionel Donovan walked with the protesters to hear some of their stories.
Trump must go now. I'm disabled. I'm rated 60%. I have back issues from the military. I have pulmonary issues, lung issues. I have my inhalers and everything else here, but I had to come.
Lance Corporal Sean Riente traveled all the way from California to stand against President Donald Trump. As a veteran, Riente says when he saw Trump deploy hundreds of his fellow Marines to Los Angeles in response to protests earlier this week, he knew he had to speak up.
They are trained for armed combat. They are not trained to crowd control and so forth. So for that point, all those people out there, all the Marines out there, need to remember their oath.
An oath to the Constitution that Riente says he's still following, which is why he can't stay home.
Trump actively ignores laws, actively ignores the courts, and people you just can't sit back and do nothing.
Representative James Keedy accused President Trump of using the U.S. military as a, quote, prop. Now he's advocating for others to follow Riente's example and gather in D.C. to stand together against the Trump administration. He admitted that the size of the U.S. may make that difficult, but he says at this point, it has to be done.
We go 3,000 miles coast to coast, 1,500 from north to south. So it's going to take a little bit more effort and creative organizing, but we've got to get more than 10 million people into the streets here in D.C. to jam up the gears of government, make our nation ungovernable, because that will be, I believe, the lever that pushes Donald Trump out of power.
Now's the time for Trump to go!
Lionel Donovan, WUSA 9.
All right, Lionel, thank you. No Kings protests were held across the country today, in contrast to the president's military parade.
And while most protests were calm, not everywhere was peaceful. Police started cracking down on demonstrations in Los Angeles using tear gas and flashbangs after people in the crowd allegedly started throwing objects at officials.
The city has seen multiple days of protests against ICE immigration enforcement. Tens of thousands came out today in L.A.
Thousands of other peaceful No King demonstrations happened across across the country, including in Philadelphia. That's where the flagship event was held and where event organizers asked D.C. residents to attend instead of protesting in the district.
And take a look at this. We also saw thousands gather in New York. Organizers say nearly 50,000 marchers showed up. They walked down Fifth Avenue to Madison Square.
And in Georgia, we saw thousands gathered in front of the state capitol building in Atlanta. Organizers say today's crowds blew through the venue's 5,000 person capacity.
And then here at home, we saw thousands of people participating across the DMV.
Our John Duran went to one on King Street in Old Town Alexandria.
People I spoke to at this protest on King Street and several others I visited across Northern Virginia say the huge turnout here and across the country sends a message. Being so close to D.C. in Saturday's parade, these protesters tell me they felt an obligation to be out here. Driving on I-395 in Arlington, you can't miss them. But that's the point.
When you ignore the people, this is the kind of thing that happens.
Signs, flags, and hundreds of people filled highway overpasses. Just a few miles from Saturday's parade.
We love what the Army is. We think it should be celebrated. We also think that they hopefully are reminded of the fact that they have an obligation to the people and to fight for democracy.
The power in this country and democracy lay with the people. It doesn't lay in Washington, D.C., in the Oval Office, or in Congress. Okay, it's with the people.
In the heart of Alexandria's Old Town, thousands more made their voices heard.
Go ahead, have your parades and your pomp and circumstance. We don't care. We don't pay attention to it because at the end of the day, we know we are stronger than that.
There is an obligation for people locally to stand up and show out and show that we are here to support the people who are being downtrodden by this regime.
Among those supporters is Congressman Don Beyer, who says gatherings like this inspire hope.
It's hard. These are really dark times, but we will prevail. And we're going to prevail because people like this are coming out all over the country, determined to fight back.
One thing organizers asked Saturday's crowd to do was register to vote for Virginia's Democratic primary election on Tuesday. In Old Town Alexandria, John Duran, WUSA 9.
In Maryland, Senator Chris Van Hollen made a point to stop by several of those No Kings demonstrations in Montgomery County. We caught up with him at No Kings on the Pike in Rockville.
Again, hundreds of people gathered in different locations. You can see this along the Rockville Pike. They were holding up signs and they were chanting as cars drove by with the occasional honk of support.
These great patriots care about the Constitution. They care about our country. They love our country. And they understand that in our country, our devotion is to our ideals and to our Constitution, not to one person who wants to be king.
If you missed any of our military parade coverage, we have got you covered. You can watch our coverage of the entire parade from start to finish streaming on WUSA 9+.